Check this out.
Hi everyone, I'm Empardy and I would like to introduce the ONEFORALL mapping for the F1 Kontrol from Native Instruments. This mapping offers more than 130 functions to control your Traktor software. It makes the F1 the most versatile controller for your DJ software. For instance, you can use the F1 Kontrol as a deck player, a loop recorder, a slice trigger, an effect device, or in a remix set. Manipulate the sound using the fader and knobs on the Traktor F1. Use the 4x4 trigger pad to apply more than 100 functions in each deck. Of course, you got all the most basic functions every audio player comes along, like the play pause button, the cue button, the play reverse button, but also more advanced features like the flux mode, quantize mode, and deck sync. Additionally, the ONEFORALL mapping includes 8 hot cue trigger, a various amount of loop functions, 4 effect rows at a time, and 15 preset effect units to choose from. A menu only for adjusting your effect unit, a menu for tempo adjustment, a browse mode so you can operate your decks fully hands off your laptop, an advanced menu with map buttons to move around in your track, or switch to scratch control.
Check this out.
Tempo bend, correct the beat grid of your analyzed soundtrack, and finally the duplicate deck function. These functions come along with 4 different mappings available: the deck A, deck B, deck C, and deck D. This means that you can control up to 4 decks simultaneously, but there's not always a need for a big setup. For instance, you can use deck A and deck B plus the Set1 mixer to do a 2-deck setup. No matter if you're a bedroom DJ, a battle DJ looking for tools to make a unique transition, if you're willing to create your own sound and combine the F1 remix set into your workflow, Or you're a beginner looking for an affordable setup, the Traktor F1 combined with the ONEFORALL mapping gives you everything you need to raise your DJ game to the next level. The DJ industry offers a lot of products such as standalone DJ controller or a digital music player, often to high prices. When designing the ONEFORALL mapping, my goal was to create a multi-purpose deck controller with a maxed out amount of functions to control your DJ software. Plus, everything for a cheap price. At the same time, I wanted the controller to be as intuitive as possible. In the end, you don't want to be controlled and played by technology, but control technology and control the music you're playing. I'm now using the ONEFORALL mapping in the F1 Kontrol as a deck controller for more than 2 years. In this time, I've constantly improved the design of the mapping to make it more intuitive. There are 16 different colors displayed with LEDs in each pad, which vary in brightness or start blinking, to indicate the functions or navigate you through the menus. This gives you a fast overview of the functions the different pads enable. So by time you will learn operating the ONEFORALL mapping, and your focus will be attached more and more to the sound you're playing rather than the handling. Now I showed you the functions very briefly. To get a deeper understanding of the different possibilities, this video offers a walk through the 7 submenus and all the functions this mapping offers. But first, I'm playing a short demo with the 4-deck setup and a record player controlling DVS.
wanna see you alone, I wanna shaft the stone, I wanna bounce the bone, I wanna mess with it, I wanna lay the veil, the whole crew on the sill, want the preacher and pill, I wanna bless with it, I wanna head to a mass and get cast in it, the shit's funnier than any A-class in it, I wanna talk with a clown who has apologies down, pay him £300 to take a class in it, I wanna bite the phone, I wanna bleed the tone, I wanna see you alone, 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 wanna straight the shack, I find me somewhere to pack, like the light when it's dark, it's dark, it's dark, dark, a few stars above, make it feel like peace in a way, complicate the realm, the constellations got a twist to it, for a GPR and all the hits in heaven, everything is fine, in heaven, everything is fine, in heaven, everything is fine. I wanna talk with a guy if it's a bottle or bag, I wanna strike with the sag and leave the friends from it, I wanna make the mark, I wanna shot the dark, I wanna live the act and call the ends on it, I wanna take the truth without a lens on it, my God-given insanity, it depends on it, how I feel, how I feel, how I feel, I wanna keep.
I hope you enjoyed this little set. If you're interested in DJing with this device, it is necessary to learn some of the basic functions. After that, we will look at some more demanding possibilities that make this mapping unique and outstanding. Before you can use the ONEFORALL mapping, it is necessary to set it up correctly. Therefore, I've made a step-by-step video you can also find on my channel. Additionally, it can be helpful to use the user manual as a guidance. Once you have set up your F1 control, it is time to play. Press one of the 16 pads to get into Performance menu and use all the functions as shown. But before we go into detail, let's load a track out of our library. Therefore, we hit the Browse button. The blue LED flashing up shows us that the browse mode is active. Use the encoder to scroll through the library. Press reverse and turn the encoder to scroll through the browse tree. Press the encoder to load a library, a playlist, or a file into a certain deck. You can exit the browse mode anytime by pressing the Browse button or the Shift button. Let's stay in the navigation section. Here we got the Sync button that will tempo and phase sync the track to the master tempo. When holding Shift and pressing the Sync button, the deck will become master. This means it will set the BPM of other decks in sync mode to the BPM of the deck master. Next we got the Quant button, which will enable quantize and snap. This will let you drop your loop in and outs or cue points on the beat grid. Also hot cues will be played in beat sync. Then there's the Capture button. Different from the default mapping, this will let you jump into freeze mode. When the deck is playing, you have a sequence of 16 slices. Every slice can be triggered by pressing one of the 16 pads on your F1. When tapping the pad, the slice will act similar to a hot cue, meaning the track will jump to the slice and then continue playing at this point. When the flux mode turned on, the track will continue playing at the point where it would have been without triggering the slice. So the flux mode will save the position of the actual track, which can be a playful tool if you just want to add some creative moves. When you are in a loop and then press Capture, the loop will be divided into 16 slices, which continuously repeat playing just like the loop does. Press the Capture button again to leave the freeze mode. When you are holding Shift and the Capture button, you are able to delete hot cues, which I will demonstrate later. If you aren't familiar with the Traktor program, it can feel a bit strange to get to know all the functions it offers. But here comes the good news. Every behavior can be learned playfully, just like getting comfortable with the slice trigger. Okay, let's move on with the second row in the navigation section. Here we got the Reverse button. We already learned that the Reverse button will lead you to the browse tree when you are in browse mode. In any other mode except for browse mode, the Reverse button will lead you to the Performance menu. Holding Shift and pressing the Reverse button will change the flavor of the deck. This means you can jump between your track deck, your remix deck, your stem deck, or live input. Pressing the Type button will enable the key lock. The key lock will set the audio to its original key, nevertheless the tempo is pitched up or down. When holding Shift and holding the Type button, plus turning the encoder, you're able to pitch the key of the track one up or down. Turn the encoder clockwise to pitch the key one up, turn the encoder counterclockwise to pitch the key one down. Let's continue with the Size button. Holding the size button and turning the encoder lets you adjust the size of the waveform. Zoom in and check if the playing tracks are lined up just perfectly. Zoom out and have a great overview of what will come. Holding Shift and pressing the size button will open the tempo menu, which we are going to check out later. If you've seen the instruction of the setup, you know that holding Shift and pressing the browse button will let you switch between the F1 default mapping and the F1 user mapping. In this case, it's the F1 remix set and the ONEFORALL mapping. There's one more function in the navigation section. You can hold Shift and turn the encoder to scroll through your track. Let us pause for a moment before we continue talking about all the functions this mapping offers. I know it can be very overwhelming to listen to this great amount of information. Maybe you're afraid there's no way to remember all the specific information this mapping has to offer. Let me take the pressure for you. There's no need to remember all the actions at once. More than copying what I tell you, it is the best to learn by trial and error. I can also highly recommend to use the ONEFORALL user manual. After a short time, you will learn how to operate your controller in order to use the basic functions. And after some more time, you will ignite the full extent of this powerful tool. Let's come to the most relevant features to control your digital audio track. The performance menu gives you great tools to perform your set just the way you like it. Well, of course we got the play pause button. By pressing the first pad, you set the loaded track into play. The green LED gives you the feedback that the audio file is in playback mode. When you press the button again, it will pause the track. The red light signals that the track is paused or not playing. The speciality of the LED feedback is that the red light can also flash. This is the case when your audio is playing in scratch control, in which you can operate your deck using a turntable and DVS.
Check this out.
The orange pad next to the play pause button is the cue button. Hold the button and your audio will play from the cued point. Press play while holding the cue button and the track will continue playing. But maybe it wasn't the right timing and you want to restart from the cued point. If the deck isn't set to play, just release the cue button and the track will automatically jump back. Next there's the yellow pad, which opens the extended menu that we are going to look at later. The last pad of the row will turn on the flux mode. As already explained, when flux mode is turned on, the position of the playing track will not be lost, even if you mess around with the hotkeys.
Your man. Bitch, I'll take your boyfriend.
Beat jump.
Bitch, I'll take your boyfriend.
Slice trigger. The play reverse button. Or the loop options. So let me demonstrate you how the flux mode operates and keep an eye on the blue grid marker, which indicates the position you will jump to after ending your action.
Bitch, I'll take your boyfriend. Bitch, I'll take your man. Bitch, I'll take your boyfriend. Bitch, I'll take your man.
Okay, let's now talk about the second row of the 4x4 trigger pads. In this row, it's all about effects. Traktor keeps its effects in so-called effects units. Every unit is shown in the Traktor Software right next to the global section. The units can contain one single effect or up to 3 effects as a group effect. Using this mapping lets you control up to 4 FX units at the same time. A great feature is that you don't have to set your effects every time you open the program, but the effects will be selected every time you choose 1 out of 15 preset FX units. By pressing one of the pads 5 to 8, you will open the effect menu. In the last 2 rows of the 4x4 trigger pad, you can select a preset FX unit. The different colors help you indicate which preset FX unit you want to choose. For example, I take the one with the dark orange LED. I use this FX unit as an effect row in which the 3 effects are combined together to create a big whoosh sound. For the right use of the preset FX unit, it is necessary to set the parameters of every unit to the basic attitude. Watch my video on how to set up the ONEFORALL mapping and get a full guidance on how to set up every attitude to its best. The most intuitive way to control your effects is to go into the performance or the extended menu. You can also be in slice mode, in browse mode, in the loop menu or the record menu. Always the knob, fader and pad and vertical line with the selected FX unit will work together. Most of the time the knob will act as the dry-wet adjust. Turning the knob clockwise will increase the amount of effect. Here, moving the fader from the low end to the top will increase the attitude of the effect parameters. To manipulate the sound, make sure the FX unit is enabled by pressing the small pad, which will assign the deck to the certain unit. Some effects, like the auto bouncer, can only be controlled in the FX menu. Let's open the effect menu of the second FX unit. In the effect menu, every FX unit can be controlled very precisely using the 4 pads in the first row and the knobs on the F1. The pads 2 to 4 will function as button 1 to 3 in the FX unit. Every button has its individual behavior depending on the FX unit which is selected. But in the case the FX unit contains group effects, the pads 2 to 4 will always end or disable the linked effect. Now let's check out how the 4 knobs function in the effect menu. The first knob is the tri-weight adjust of the complete unit. The next 3 knobs adjust the 3 attitudes of the effect parameters. If the FX unit contains a group effect, the knobs are linked to one specific effect parameter. And when the FX unit contains a single effect, the knobs are linked to 3 different effect parameters. By now, I've already shown you how to operate the most complex feature of the one-for-all mapping. If we summarize the function of the effect control, we can say there are 2 different possibilities to control your effects. The more intuitive way with the knob and fader is an adjust for the most important attitudes, or the more precise effect control in the effect menu. Be aware that the F1 control will always show the color and behave the way it was set to. In this video I'm not going to go into detail with every preset FX unit. It would expand this video in the amount of information and length. If you're interested in how every unit functions, you can look up my video of how to operate all the 15 preset FX units. There you can also see how to unfold the 7 additional FX units. So now we talked about the first 2 rows in the performance menu, but there are 2 more rows with 8 pads to use. Also, when it comes to the next 2 sections, it is possible to unfold more pads. By holding Shift and tabbing one of the 4 hotcue pads, we can set 8 hotcues or loop cues in total. Hotcues can be set on the fly, meaning you can set a hotcue even if the track is playing. The pad is shining bright to indicate that you have set a hotcue. Tap the same pad again and you will jump directly to the point you have placed it. If you have set a loop and then press a hotcue, you will save the sequence of that loop. The pad will shine green. Jump back anytime to the start of the loop. The first hotcue should always be the grid cue. This ensures that your grid will be shown correctly. If you want to delete a hot or loop cue, hold Shift and the capture button and press the pad you want to delete. Press reverse in order to minimize the hotcue section to 4 hotcues. The last row of the performance menu is the loop section. With the one-for-all mapping, there are 4 ways to set a loop. If your track is playing, use the first pad in this row to set the beginning of the loop, and the second pad to set the end. In this way, you can set loops in every size. Make sure Quantize and Snap is turned on to set the loop exactly on the beat grid. A nice way to set a loop is to set a backward loop. Pressing the third pad will set the beginning of the loop 4 beats back in time. In this way, you can set a loop more spontaneous and won't miss the sequence you want to capture. A classical way to set your loop is with the loop size selector and the loop active button. First, set the size of the loop you want to create. Regard the size of the loop in your software. You can also regard the indirect loop size from the number in the 7-segment display. Turn the encoder counterclockwise and halve the size of the loop. Turn the encoder clockwise and double the size. If you want to activate your loop, tap the loop active button and the loop will start at the current position. The same button lets you also exit your loop. Another hidden gem on the one-for-all mapping is found by holding Shift and pressing one of the pads in the loop section. In this way you can open the loop menu. Once opened, you can instantly set a loop in any size between 32 beats and 1 32nd beat. The pads differ in brightness to indicate the loop size. The brighter the light, the tighter the loop size. Here you can activate any loop size by pressing the certain pad. Half the loop size, or select a loop in any size. Press the pad again to exit the loop. Again, press reverse to get back to the performance menu. So now I've shown you the navigation section with the browse mode, first row in the performance menu, the second row with all the effect menus, the hotcue section, and the loop section with the loop menu. Mastering these functions is a great basis to start off playing your music. Adapting this mapping into your workflow helps you recognize every pad and its function. It's the same like every other controller. In the beginning you have to look up what this and that button do, but after some time you handle it by heart and also in some dark club environment. Even though the Traktor software analyzes the tracks flawlessly, sometimes you have to adjust the beat grid or nudge the track back and forth to match it with another deck. For this case you will find everything you need in the extended menu. Open it by tabbing the third pad of the first row. You will see that the 4x4 trigger pads of the F1 have changed their color, and so did they change their function. But the first row represents an exceptional row. You always have the most important functions like the play-pause functions right next to you, even in the loop, extended or tempo menu. Let's look at the second row of the extended menu. We have 2 of the dark orange buttons on the left side and 2 light orange buttons on the right side. In this row, it's all about moving through your audio file. You've already learned that you can move through your track with holding Shift and turning the encoder. This is a great feature if you want to move fast to your point of interest. But if your track is already delivered to the master output, you don't want your crowd to move in the same way your encoder does. there might be reasons you still want to move around while playing your track. For example, when the tracks you're playing are not lined up perfectly and you want to jump around just by one beat. Then you can beat jump one beat backwards by pressing pad 7. And by pressing pad 8, you beat jump one beat forward. In this way, messing up your timing won't enforce you to start all over again. Well, I just have to point out that there are more nice ways to use the beat jump function. For example, you can duplicate a deck and set it one beat back. You can also add some extra flavor to the second deck by using some effects or pitching the key up or down. The dark orange pads on the left side of the move section will let the track make a big jump or a small jump, depending on what size is selected. The size of the beat jump is the same size as your loop size is set on. You might know the scenario quite well. You're mixing two tracks together and you notice they are lined up in a way that they don't make the drop together. In order to beat match both, you can also beat jump one track, forward or backward. If there's a loop active, pads 5 and 6 will become green. Now you can jump around similar to the beat jump, but with the difference that your track will continue playing in a new loop sequence. In other words, the beginning and the end of a loop will jump in a specific amount back or forth. This size can be adjusted when you hold the shift button while you're in an active loop. Now you can regard the size of your loop jump in the Traktor software. Turn the encoder counterclockwise in order to reduce the size, and turn the encoder clockwise in order to increase the size.
What you wanna do? What you gonna do?
Okay, let's come back to the scenario your audio file hasn't been analyzed correctly. Your DEX is in sync mode, but the beats just won't match. Hasn't it always been the task of a DJ to match two or more tracks together? Even though the F1 doesn't have a jog wheel included, it's still possible to beat match two or more tracks together so you can mix them just flawless. Let's say the tempo of both tracks is the same. In this case, all you have to do is nudge the one track a bit back, or 4. Therefore, use the yellow pads in the third row. Pad 9 will tempo bend backwards and pad 10 will tempo bend forwards. Cue your headphones on both tracks and find the sweet spot where both decks are beat-faced nicely. But there are at least two more ways to beat match with the ONEFORALL mapping in the F1 Kontrol. Let me give you a short introduction into DVS. DVS stands for Digital Vinyl System and combines the handling of a turntable and the manifold functions of a digital player. Technically, you can play your digital tracks and use hot cues, loops, effects, and nearly everything a digital player could do. Plus, you have the great advantage of the vinyl haptic. DVS also gives you the option to beat match your decks the old-fashioned way. Use the pitch fader of your record player to adjust the BPM and the beat phase of the incoming or outgoing track. In Traktor, you can operate your DVS in the scratch control mode. In this mode, your audio device uses the signal from the record player to operate your deck. Switch into scratch control by pressing pad 12. Switch back anytime into playback mode by pressing pad 11. You can see in which mode you're in by the bright pad or the play pause button, which starts blinking in red, where the record spin in is green in playback mode. Additionally, the scratch control symbol in the Traktor software shows you that the relative mode is activated. Last but not least, this mapping offers the possibility to set the beat grid of your track. If you need to set the BPM of your beat grid, you can use the beat tab button at the right-hand corner of the extended menu. When your audio is passing a beat grid marker, the beat tab button will flash up. In this way, you can also visually prove if your beat grid is in time with your track. It is also possible to adjust the beat grid by pressing pad 14 to make the marker move back in time, and pad 15 which will move the beat grid forward. The turquoise pad in the left-hand corner is the play reverse button. Holding it will let the track play in reverse. The extended menu contains 4 different pads when holding shift. 3 more actions are waiting to be unfolded. By pressing shift and then pads 13 to 16 in the extended menu, it is possible to copy the file and the characteristics of another deck. In this example, I can copy deck A, deck B and deck C. Press shift again to hide this extended feature. I used the duplicate deck option before to demonstrate the offset track. But of course there are many other possibilities with duplicating a deck, like changing the key, using a loop sequence while the track continues, or changing the channel in case there are any difficulties with the mixer. Now you've seen the main menus that include almost all the features that Traktor Software provides. Especially if you need to beat match both tracks, It's not always an option to use the sync button. Or maybe you want to change the BPM during your set. Therefore, I've added the tempo menu. Open the tempo menu by holding Shift and pressing sides in the navigation section. Changing the tempo normally works the best with the tempo fader, and therefore all 4 fader on the F1 transform into pitch fader when opening the tempo menu. Keep in mind that your FX unit can be controlled by the F1 control while being in tempo menu. And since the fader are in double use, watch out to preferably use one of the 4 faders which isn't in a current use of an enabled FX unit. As you can see, the play pause button is included as well as the Q button. Next to the Q button is the cut button, which stands for Q play. It's similar to the Q button but will let the audio play exactly in the moment you let go of the cut button. In this way, finding the right timing to play your track may become more fluid. Also, the third row is copied from the extended menu. In this way you have everything you need to beat match a track using the pitch faders and the tempo band functions included in one menu. When using DVS, it is only possible to tempo adjust with the pitch fader on your turntable or the pitch fader in your tempo menu at a time. Therefore, it can be necessary to switch between scratch control and playback mode, just like in the extended menu. But why should you want to use the pitch fader on your F1 control instead of the pitch fader on your record player? The answer lies in the adjustable tempo range of your F1 control combined with the ONEFORALL mapping. In the second row of the tempo menu, you can switch between a tempo range of 2%, 10%, 25%, and get the complete scope with 100%. This means you can adjust the tempo very precisely or with the complete tempo range. For beat matching, I recommend a tempo range of 10%. You can only apply the tempo range selector when the master isn't the master clock but the deck master. In order to adjust the master clock, press pad 14 in the tempo menu. In the global section, you can see if the master clock is master. Also, the pad 14 starts blinking to indicate that you can adjust the master clock tempo by using one of the fader on the F1. When the master clock is master, the pad next to the master selector button starts blinking in the tempo of the master clock. In this case, you can use this pad as a beat tab button for the master clock. This is a cool feature if you want to adapt the BPM of the master clock to the BPM of an external audio, like a vinyl, an external step sequencer, or from the DJ next to you. Pressing button 14 again will let the master switch to the deck master of the deck you are operating. I've also added a sync tempo button, which can be found in the right-hand corner of the tempo menu. This will set the deck tempo into sync with the master. Be aware that the deck still isn't beat synced, so you might need to beat face the incoming track. But what is it good for? Tapping the Q button while your channel is feeding the master output of your mixer can make a nice effect. Make a teaser of an incoming track by playing the kick drum similar to finger drumming, or chop a vocal in the same way. Additionally, you can use the pitch fader to pitch the sound. Make sure the key lock is turned off to get a great effect. At some point, you might want to let the incoming track play and mix it to the outgoing. Press the tempo sync button after messing around with your pitch faders, so you can focus on getting the right timing instead of pitching your track to the right tempo. In the end, this feature can save you a lot of time and you may gain from it when you're mixing a track from scratch. End the tempo menu by pressing the reverse or the size button. We've almost gone through all the features the ONEFORALL mapping has to offer. But I have one more menu to show you, the recording menu. It can be opened by holding the Shift and pressing the Quant button in the navigation section. Here you can see these 4 steps, each flashing after one sequence. This is not a step sequencer, but the heart of the F1 that will make the LEDs blink in a way it becomes more easy and intuitive to navigate through all the modes and menus of this mapping. If the LEDs are malfunctioning and won't blink as they are supposed to, this is also the menu to revive them. In order to start the pulsation, connect and select your audio device and press the red pad in the right corner. This will activate the loop recorder. So be aware that there is no audio signal connected for the time the loop recorder is recording. If there isn't an active loop playing in the loop recorder, you can use the encoder to adjust the loop size that you want to record. Just like the regular loop, the numbers are in inverse ratio to the actual loop size and go from 1 to 4. 1 equals the loop size of 32 beats, 2 equals the loop size of 16 beats, 3 equals the loop size of 8 beats, and 4 equals the loop size of 4 beats. Use the bright purple light next to the loop recorder button to delete the complete loop. Use the purple button in the left-hand corner to undo the last recorded loop. The easiest way to play the loop recorder is to load the recorded audio into your F1 remix set. In this way, you can send your recorded loops on the fly. The red button, which is located over the loop recorder button, is the mix record button that lets you record your complete mix. Tapping the button again will stop the recording. Thank you for watching my video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in playing the ONEFORALL mapping on the Traktor software, you can read the description, there's a download link. Also, this mapping is open source and available for free, but I would appreciate if you would support my work and therefore also hit the link in the description. I also would love to hear your opinion, so feel free to leave a comment or give it a thumbs up if you like it. See ya.